was daylight savings. I woke up to go to work, and I was like, "Why am I fucking tired?" And,
Well,
and then I came in from the garage 20, 30 minutes ago, and I told Vanessa, "I'm still tired." She goes, "Yeah, you lost an hour of sleep." I was like, "Oh, I thought I got 4 hours." So instead, it was 3 hours again.
Yeah, our
Yeah.
kids get so wrecked over the time change. And to be fair, so does Andrea. That she actually went around the house last night and just changed all the clocks, just so they wouldn't notice.
Well,
And they haven't said a thing, so we're doing okay.
it's kind of been a hanger of a week for me because at work they offered me the feeder driver position, but they offered me the second backup, so I'd only spend like 20 weeks doing the feeder position. And I was like, really, like, I don't really think I want to do that. And then like a couple of my friends like convinced me. I says, all right, I'll go do that. And so I went there, and I'm like knocking it out. I'm like doing great. I'm like putting up doubles. Like I'm being not even really supervised anymore. Hey, here's the keys. Go pre-trip that tractor. Hook up a set of doubles. Give me a call, and I'll come out. I was like, thanks, trainer. I'll get right on that. And so been doing that. But the crazy thing is, like, I have to get up at 4 because I have to report up there in West Valley. 5:30, 5:45, 6 a.m. every morning. And so like I'm trying to get as much sleep as possible. So I'm like 7:30, I'm like, oh, here we go. Like we have to sleep. I need to sleep. But anyways, you guys were asking me if I was doing that online. And there's a funny world of like, we want to shoot guns. We grew up and we're like, we want to shoot guns. There are people who are accountants, which are like, I wanted to drive a big rig. And I was robbed of driving a big rig for my rest of my life. And they go on, they have like these big rig simulators, and they like talk to people. And there's people who don't even like do an actual Uber, but do fake Ubers on Twitch and just like drive around, and they're like singing songs or whatever like that. But there's some of these big rig challenges which are absolutely crazy, where they have like a curved road, except for it's virtual, so you fall immediately off the road, and it's as wide as the tractor and trailer. And so they have like these guys pulling this 53-footer across this thing, and so they have like 2 wheels off on one side, and then they're constantly trying to work this thing over so it doesn't fall off. And there's like these truck driving challenges, like these crazy like S-curve blind backs, and like they just like set themselves up to do this. It's pretty ridiculous. There's something for everybody.
Yeah, I knew when I spent as much time as I did playing Guitar Hero 7, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I sat there and I'm like, I could have actually learned how to play a guitar in the time that it took me to actually master this game. And I'm like, something is wrong in my life, which is why I stopped playing first-person shooters, and now I just go do first-person shooting in real life.
Yeah, the one
people at the bank were upset, but I didn't
care. What's funny about that is they had like the Guitar Hero and the Rock Band, right? And then they're like, somebody's like, wait a second, why don't we plug an actual guitar into the Xbox and we could teach people to actually play guitar as they went? And they made that product and they called it Rocksmith. The people were like, F that! I want my 5 buttons. You understand this? I want to be shredding off the bat. Screw this learning stuff. So it's all the great thing. Anyway, welcome to the PARAcast, the show that we talk about mostly things that aren't firearms, just cool things. It's still like UPS has these funny little methods, like everything is like very tight. This is the way the company wants you to do it. We're going to be the safest company. But I'm still happy that looking out the window and then just slanging the wheel like crazy as you're backing up a trailer, that's still in the methods. You just slanging trailers in the spaces. Anyways, welcome to PARAcast. I'm Tom Nelson. Joining me tonight, just like Little Caesar's Pizza, he's also hot and ready for $5. It's Robert Wyatt.
Hey, the recession has hit. My bank closed its doors. $5 is $5.
I can confirm.
$5 is what?
Hey, you weren't complaining about that hot and spicy.
It's $6 if you want an extra topping, if you want him to wear a topping. Also, he bought a wingsuit, but it was actually a slanket. We'll all miss Kenny Terry.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
I was just sitting there rolling through the Amazon, grabbing something. I saw slankets or whatever. I was like, is that a wingsuit? And I was just like, it'd be funny if someone bought one thinking it was a wingsuit. Anyways, I've been off doing nothing. So I have nothing. left in me besides the thing that I want to get, and I think I want to buy a USP, an old H&K USP. Half of this damn Vickers guidebook is the USP. It's like, I don't know. 30,
all that book
thing.
is just temptation in written form. It's the worst.
Everything looks so good in there. Like they show like these like all it, so the crazy thing is like all the classic images as if you have of like the promotional guides for like the HK stuff, like growing up in the 90s and stuff like that. They have like the USP expert or whatever, and then they have like that picture of the USP 40 cal in a bed of brass, like the 100,000 round test or whatever, and it's sitting there and it's like the original image, and you're just like, man, this stuff looks freaking cool. This is like a cool history of stuff, and I'm just like, that stuff is pretty freaking sweet. And you know, it's like the worst book you could possibly ever come out with is when they come out with the Glock book. Oh, here it is. I just flipped right to it. Like you get these gigantic heavy colored pages, and you're just like, you know what? That shit looks cool. Like that's like the coolest 40 caliber handgun ever made. So
I will say, if nowhere in that book is there a picture of the backward bullets in the magazine, it's not a real HK book.
But yeah, it's one of the cool, like it's like here's the 2-page Mark 23.
Wow.
I guess centerfold thing, but it's
what's
like
the suppressor?
That's the prototype. So Mark 23 prototype phase 2. So they'll show you like the incomplete development of how things went along when they were making their own suppressor, and then like here's literally the next page, the production model.
Wow.
Of the Mark 23, and so that's their night armament suppressor, and it's crazy. You can see the welds in it. So it is. It's pretty nice. And so I'm just like, you sit there and you're like, I have all the handguns I would ever need for competition production or whatever the stuff, single stack, the stuff I would like to shoot.
Really?
And concealed carry. Yeah, like I have everything. I'm kind of like like I have my TRP, I'd go shoot that, and if I went back into production, I have my BRIG-TAC, my Wilson Combat Beretta. Like I'm very happy with that setup. I got this Glock 17, I got Glock 34s, I got 4 optics gun, I got an M&P stuff if I want. I got this little SIG thing, and so when I'm
There's never a gun that I don't want. Well, there's always something that I want.
Well, I'm just saying that what I would compete.
2011 to be competitive now, so
you have
I'm
to.
I'm looking at a 2011.
You have to have a 2011, and now you have to get one that takes Glock mags or P320 mags or something like that now.
I said I wanted a 2011. I didn't say I wanted something reliable.
Yeah. I didn't want something great. I didn't want something that was quote unquote with tuned mags. But I like look at these books, and then I'm like looking at some of these pistols that I always wanted as a kid. I'm like, that was 25 years ago. And then I'm like, I should probably buy one of these before they go away. And then like I should buy one and buy like 10 mags in case these things ever go away, just because it's one of the coolest things. And so those USPs are just.
And that's why I want a Desert Eagle.
Yeah. Get it.
Totally impractical. Has no redeeming value in the world.
But they're awesome.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, they're pretty sweet. They're pretty sweet. So it's like it's crazy. Like some of those. I guess a lot of people in the early USPSA or IPSC kind of like there was those custom guns because everything was basically in 1911. You'd send them off and you'd have Swenson or something like that do them, and like those guns have basically all disappeared. You know, those early Wilson Combat and Infinities and stuff like that, and so like that history that's gone away, and like the history of like the service weapons, more and more of those service weapons are starting to disappear. Like we're not too far off where you won't be able to buy a non-Omega plain CZ75.
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
I'm not saying you won't be able to find one, but like
I think the Omega goes away long before the 75 series. Long before. Because it was a great idea that just didn't work.
It's just a great idea that didn't work because nobody wanted it.
It's the dumbest thing. CZ's like, okay, we listen to you guys. And we understand, we know the gun breaks, we know it has problems, so we've got this new one. We're going to call it the Omega. And they look at that, they look at the Omega, and they're like, what is this new Coke, classic Coke bullshit? Give me the one that doesn't work.
It's not even new Coke, classic Coke. They're like, listen, we heard you. The bottle was too thin when you grabbed it. It popped up and the soda spilled on you. We made the bottle slightly thicker, so you won't spill Coke on yourself. And they're like, the cap has 3 threads on it. I'm a 2-thread man. I'm a 2-thread man. You know how much extra force it takes to get the cap off with the 3 threads?
Yeah, the 75 to Omega like comparison is roughly what you see in USPSA like shooters, like with relationship to like the board of directors and new divisions. They're like, we want all this new stuff because this doesn't work, and then they get it like, F that. We don't want that anymore. Not that way.
Whatever. It's freaking nonsense all the time. It's just there's plenty of good designs that literally just die on the vine. And why do they die? Because it's just like, there's like, even looking at like the HK history, it's like how many the UMP series completely fell apart because HK made the MP5 first.
Right. Well, look at the Hudson H9. I mean, that was a great idea. It just could not survive. I mean, they made really bad marketing decisions.
It could have had a Gen 2 and been very successful in a Gen 2 form.
Well, it could have had a Gen 2 if they had just shut their mouths and not told people that Gen 2 was coming, because they had that nice steel frame gun, which was their original, and people were like, boy, we wish this thing was lighter. And what was his name? Cy or whatever. He's like, yeah, next year we're coming out with a aluminum one. And everybody's like, oh, well, I'll just wait. I won't buy. Like, ooh, there went all your money.
That's why everyone drops it the day of. It's like, here it is. Here's the product. I remember when, like, a lot of people who are in the firearms now, like, really before, like, 2010, like that 2000, like, 90s, 2000s, 20 up to like 2010. There was this thing that gun manufacturers love to do, which was announce a product and never bring it out for like 18 months. You would hear something about SHOT Show and have something written up. You'd be like, what is this? I would like this. Here's my money. Take it now. And they're like, you go to the gun store and it's like, we had it. We can't hear it. I called up the manufacturer. They don't have any to ship. Like, I don't know what this Phantomware is. So, like, the Phantomware that used to be happening. And so people would move their money around and go do whoever paid it off first. And now it's like, do not tell anybody.
They would come up with an idea, and then they'd go and like talk about it at SHOT Show. And if they got enough people that were like excited about it, like, well, cool, let's go do it now. And then they spend the next 12 months actually building the thing.
Not enough people who are actually excited about it. But literally, how many gun shops pre-ordered the thing?
Yeah,
it's like, oh yeah, that's sales. Like, here it is, and they're like, they have it out to the range day, and it's just like, don't anybody blow this thing up because we have 1.7 of these things available for us to shoot.
It was like forever ago, it was like 1984 or whatever, when Steve Jobs introduced the first Macintosh. That Macintosh was called the Fat Mac because you could not actually get a Macintosh that would work. It hadn't been built.
Yeah, I mean, that was just the nature of the industry, and now it's like they are literally, stuff gets broken. Like, you get stuff in the gun store before it's even been announced sometimes.
Yeah.
So, what you get? But anyways, get the guns that you want before they disappear. You guys shot a match. Let's talk about it, Robert.
It was so we did the indoor match, and that was a lot of fun. But the best match of the week was by far Slips's. Yesterday we got there, and sun was out. It's the first time this entire year the weather was but the weather was good. Like, halfway through the first stage, I take my coat off and I go throw it back in the car.
Yeah,
it was just. I always think this is so funny because in Utah, you get so used to like the 20s and like 10s, and then it gets up to 40, and you're like, dude, it's shorts weather.
Yeah, it's burning hot.
Yeah, it's not even actually warm, but
it's all
what we've had.
It's like 41 degrees. It's all White Claws and Harry Styles today, buddy.
Yeah, 100%. It's the craziest thing. But we had a handful of great stages. Dirk came up with this really banger of it was pretty much an all steel stage with some paper on the side, and I mean, people had tons of thoughts on how to shoot that. Ron Treacle had a fantastic stage that we shot. It was a great match. There was a lot of people there, but the match actually ran really efficiently. I think, how many people did we have on a squad? It was like 15, 16 something.
We were 16 or 17.
Yeah. But
we were, done by 2:30.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was probably. I know actually talking to Blake, we had some. They kind of thought maybe the weather was going to be there, so they had told everybody don't make these stages crazy long and complicated. And I think Ron's was probably the most what would you call it, positional, like go here, do that, but it flowed so well that it didn't really feel like it was like that much longer of a stage. The turnaround time from the stage we shot to I actually shot was about an hour, and I think 15 minutes of that was just waiting for the squad who was in front of us, which was kind of a little bit of a newbie squad, just to kind of cycle their guys through. And so the whole match ran really, really efficiently. It was awesome. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, and I think I give some props to Blake on that, because Blake's been doing a really good job making sure the matches run efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
We're not getting crazy stages.
Yeah. No,
97 good. Shooters done by 2:30.
You can't. What do you want more? What do you want out of that? Nothing much. How'd you guys do?
Kenny won. Kenny always wins.
I'm not gonna say it was by no means a good match. I started the match with 2 mics on 2 to 3 yard targets.
Oh, he straight up pulled a Kenny Terry. he mic'd the close ones.
Hey Kenny,
so when the stage ended, I was like, that was good. That was really good. And then you got a mic over here, and I was like, what? And then you have a mic over here too, and I'm like,
what?
No.
That's not me.
So mad.
He was beside himself. Everybody was like, okay, nobody talk to Kenny because he's kind of mad right now, and he still has his gun on his belt, and he may try and shoot somebody, maybe himself.
That was quite possibly the maddest I've been in a long time in a match. I was really mad.
Yeah, you
start the match off and giving up 40 points on the first stage. It's.
Yeah, that's the hard thing. If you're at a match and you're shooting with your friends and Kenny has a bad stage, what is kind of the official time length of time?
I say
you go up and you kind of try and talk Kenny off a cliff.
If you're Clay, it's immediately. Clay doesn't give a shit. He'll immediately tell me to quit being a pussy.
That's what I'm saying. Everyone's got to sit there and get after him, but it's kind of like, oh, Dad's mad. Oh no, we shouldn't say anything. Kenny's upset. Kenny's really good. It's like we should be. It's like he's fine. He knows what he's freaking doing.
Yeah.
I would.
No,
I think the best thing to do is remind Kenny that in major, mics still aren't worth anything.
Oh shit. Whatever. The problem is we have really good shooters locally, right? So you can't make stupid mistakes and then expect to come out winning still. And so I was really mad. I was like, F this. We're fucking turning it up for the next couple stages. And I did. I laid down 3 really good freaking runs after that, and I was able to get it back.
And the person that he was shooting against, Zach, he shot really, really well until it was our second to last stage. And then somebody took the batteries out of his optics so that he somehow shot the bed. You're welcome, Kenny.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know what happened. I'm like, oops, a daisy.
Before that, I did have a 20-point lead going into that stage. But yeah, unfortunately, Sig came through with a solid Sig dot again. And,
what?
Yeah.
What?
Wait, are you saying that Sig makes faulty product?
I'm just saying. I know
this is my shock
face. There's 7 fucking Sig dot. And...
I would say it depends on what factory your Sig dot is coming out of. I would probably say something like that. I was talking with one Jared Stepp last night. He's like, he came in 13% behind Kenny shooting open minor with any. I guess he crapped the bed pretty hard on a stage, and he was pretty happy with that. So I was just like, that's great. It's there's a ton of great shooters out there, at Slipsa, and so it's really fantastic.
Yeah, no, I think Slipsa has a lot of talent, and I think you can take a lot of that talent and go to any major match and represent yourself really well. And a lot of that, talking to your pops, Kenny, when Slipsa was started, it was started with the idea of these matches are here to prepare the shooters to go shoot major matches. Yeah. And to what extent we've kind of gotten closer or moved far away from that, I don't know. But I know that it's really funny. I was watching Tyler Turner posted up a video where at the place he shoots back east, and it's like in the entire match, I think there was like 2 partialed up targets, and it was interesting to me because we don't have a stage that ever doesn't have partialed up tuxedos, things like that. It's just that's just what we do.
Well, and I don't want them.
Tyler was saying that they're like, well, we just put the open targets out further or make it harder that way to create separation, which I get, and that makes perfect sense. But I've gone to matches that are all that open stuff, and I'm like, well, wow, this is actually really easy. It's not to say that I don't shit the bed sometimes, but it is kind of interesting to be able to go into most of our major matches and never feel like we're just so behind the 8 ball in terms of our technical skills, because Slipsa really does do a good job that way, I think.
No, I agree. And I think that's why Slipsa has always been so crucial to following the rule book. They've never been that good old boy club, because you go to a major, you want to, know what the rules are. So shoot Slipsa, you're going to know what the rules are, and they'll prepare you. And I thought, like, the stages yesterday, I thought did a really good representation of letting the high-end guys separate themselves. There was a 100%. Lot of places that you could shoot on the move, shoot aggressive, shoot stuff farther away. Like, there was a lot of places to let us separate ourselves.
Absolutely, and I like that all of our stage designers, they're sticking around long enough to start for themselves, learn what works, learn what doesn't work, and learn how to do things better. And yeah, it's kind of one of those funny things, right? Because you have to be willing to have bad stages to then get good stages.
Yep.
Yeah, take the L's.
And it's a process, and when you're going through the bad stages, sometimes you're like, man, this stage sucks.
Yeah.
And then you have to like step back and be like, no, we all started somewhere.
Yeah. But they were great stages.
Great stages. Yeah, great stages, great weather, fantastic. We shot with a great squad, and so it was absolutely a hoot.
Awesome.
It was interesting. Like, so going through a practice working competitor, you can look at all of your stage times now, like break your stages down.
Yep.
And I think I'm actually faster on some stuff. I'm faster than I've ever been. But because I haven't practiced in so long, my eyes are not there. So I think that's like I shot 3 mics, a total of 4 penalties yesterday. I mean, pretty terrible. But
eyes are ahead of the gun, or eyes are behind the gun, or
I'm behind right now. Yeah, the eyes aren't catching up. So I think part of that's, like I said, I've practiced the first time this week all year. So I mean, some of it's just not being behind a gun. But yeah, looking at the times, like I'm doing some stuff faster than I've ever done, but the eyes aren't catching up right now.
Yeah, I noticed yesterday, like two of the stages, I pull that gun out and the dot's not there, and I'm like, okay, you're getting lazy. You got to stop that.
No.
And the last stage, it was the combined stage that we shot. It was a part-time, and I just completely crapped the bed on that one. I was very mad at myself for doing it, because you're like, well, you have 6 seconds. I'm like, oh crap, just pull the gun out and just start blasting. And you're like, no, you should. Kenny said you should know how fast it takes you to do a Blake drill, which, by the way, we had a lot of moving Blake drills.
Yeah, sure.
It's not funny when Jared's not here. It's a little funny, but no, it was just kind of one of those funny things.
So that was very interesting. So what the stage was more or less a Blake drill, reload, Blake drill. So it's 2 Blake drills, because your draw and reload should be the same. So it's just whatever your Blake drill time is, double it. That's what you should be able to do the stage in.
Yep.
And it was a fixed time of 6 seconds. So anybody like B class and above should be able to run that with solid hits. But it was funny to watch the guys that could easily do it let the timer get in their head.
Yep.
Because it's a fixed time, so you only have 6 seconds. How many people let that time get in their head and just go apeshit on the stage?
Well,
it's the funny thing about the part-time stage is that it does exactly that.
Well, the part-time stage will do that. Well, and then also the timer does that to newer shooters. The timer when you first take shooters who do not mess with a shot timer, they'll literally screw everything up, because the timer just kind of makes them go, it's a race and I got to go do this stuff now, and they'll change their entire, I would say, formula for actually like picking up the gun and like getting the sights. And it's just like, just do that, and then you go beep, and they go, and then they just fling the gun out there. Like, you notice that with teaching classes, stuff like that. You'll see that with people who are not experienced shooters on the timer, but
Yeah.
you can see that too with other people. I don't know. For when I think about that stuff, I always think like when I screw up that stuff, it's because I changed the narrative of what I'm supposed to do for the timer. It's like you start thinking about like I'm gonna do this. I got to get the gun and get it up. I got to get the gun, find the dot, and then it's just like the easiest thing you can tell yourself not to do. That's just like not even draw. It's just lift the gun, point it at the target. Beep.
Right.
Lift the gun, point it at the target. Start doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. I like fixed time stages because I usually really good shooters still make those same errors. Not calling you out, Robert. Like you're a really good shooter, and you.
I flat out. I call myself on it. As soon as I did it, I was just. I mean, you like holster the gun out, make ready for the next stage, and you just in the back in your mind, your active mind, you're just like, well, crap.
Yeah, I mean, you saw a full second you could have used, right?
Yeah. That was it. Was it was terrible. It was just terrible, and it was just like you're. I mean, there's nothing Kenny could say that would make me more mad than I was at myself, because it was just like that was just, and yeah, it just stupid stuff. But the only thing you can do from that is just learn. I mean, go back, you know, write it down in your notebook, you know, here's stuff to work on.
Yep.
And just keep moving forward.
Well, that's
the cool thing about fixed time stages is if you know, like I can pretty much tell you any drill what I can run it in,
Mm-hmm.
and so if you know that stuff, you can always know how to attack fixed time stage much better.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's the kind of the funny thing about those kind of having fixed times or anticipation. Because if you even have some of the drills like some people work on, like if they have like a fast drill or build drill or something like that, what's funny is like those become fixed state. The goal time becomes the fixed stage part of that time anyway. So even if you're like, I want to be able to do a sub 2 second build drill, how fast that will push people to do something. Or if you have something like a fast drill or something like that, where it's like, I got to draw, shoot 2 to the head, reload, shoot 4 to the body, and I got to do that under 5 seconds under concealment or whatever, how that will draw people to do it. But the crazy thing is like you take that time constraint and then you're like, and here's your actual run. Like, here is the run that counts. And then you go, put it over here in the run pile, and then you just feel that kind of that tension that builds on people. And so, like, they go to, like, I could draw comfortably in 1.11 seconds. Fine. Just, that is from appendix, Bree City, well-aimed shot, 7 yards. I can do that fine. But it's like, now it's time. I need to draw in 0.89 seconds and completely destroy this run. That's what I need to do. Here we go. Or like trying to like mash splits or not aim or push through it faster. It's any monkey with the wrench that you put in the middle of the rhythm can kind of throw everything off pretty quick.
Yeah.
So
poor Kenny, when you shot, I felt so bad for you. You shot the stage and the gun malfunctions, and you're just like, shit. And you're like, okay, I want to just try one more time. So like after where the match was over, because that was our last stage, he goes and he like does it, ties again, gun malfunctions again. It's like, oh, come on, that's not fair.
Like it's completely on me. So the open gun I'm shooting, I borrowed from Clay in January, and I've yet to clean it since I borrowed it. And like the end of yesterday, it was getting real dry, and yeah, but like the problem is like that stage, like 6 second par time on 2 Blake drills, I can shoot 60 points in 6 seconds easily, like very easily, and then the gun malfunction. So it's like, okay, hood malfunction, jam a load, no time to play around anymore. You're like, so all I want to do is like, I know I can do this in 60, clean all alphas, and then gun malfunctions again. But it's on me. That's what you get. Clean the damn gun for a match.
Yeah, maintain the equipment.
Yeah, I think we have a question coming up about this.
Well, let's walk on over to Questionsville. First, we're gonna swing by Dominate Defense's apartment and say, hey, swing over to Dominate Defense. You get a Mach 1 speed belt, get a concealed carry belt. I am a company man. I am wearing the shirt. I have a belt right there. Always.
Tommy, this is a Zoom call. We don't want to see what's below.
Lower that camera.
But
it's the best equipment you could possibly have, and what's really nice is especially with some of the newer like concealed carry products like the JM stuff that have the soft loops that you're running through, it like move the buckle off to the side and it just clips on everything is fantastic. So check them out. Use promo code PARA10. Head on over to Precision Holsters, get a fast holster. One of the best competition holsters you can get. Use promo code PARA10, and also check out their magazine pouches. They're fantastic. And then Telegram. Go over to Telegram. You ask us questions on the Telegram. You get answers or sarcasm. Which one will you get
Sometimes
today?
both.
Yeah, or both.
Depends if Robert's taking this medication in the morning. From Alex Mansfield, when will Steve give into the pressure and primarily switch to a dot division? Steve was at the match yesterday. I don't know who he shot with. There was two DQs, so we know he was there.
He smelt the tears. He smelt the blood in the water.
What division did he shoot?
Probably limited.
He did.
Steve. I think Steve is like determined to get the participation trophy that limited is soon going to become.
Well, there was a solid 20 limited shooters yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
So here's the hard thing. And I don't know if Steve wants to, but I went to a ballroom dancing class yesterday night.
With Steve?
Yeah, with Steve. That's what we did. We stuck our tongues in each other's mouths. No.
That wasn't his mouth.
This is sounding awesome.
But you go do something like that, and I'm not a good dancer. But the one thing is, too, it's like you got to play the fool for a while. And the problem is, too, it's like you got to go, if you go into a new division, learn something, you got to play the fool for a little bit. And the problem is when your friends have already left and played the fool already for a year and a half, if not more, or even more and more and more time than that, then it becomes less of an incentive to go do it. So sure. The only thing that will do it is shame. Shame him, shame him, shame him. So.
Poor Steve. Let's see. From Dirk Hopkins, should we cap participants and turn people away? LTD in February had 75 people, 5 squads. SLPSA, the first match had 91 people with 6 squads. The second match will have 92 people on 6 squads.
Sure, but what do you cap it at, and what's the reasoning? I mean, like I said, yesterday, done by 2:30. Like, what more do you want? I mean, I've shot matches that had 50 competitors, and I got done later than that.
100%.
Well, and the other thing, if match flow is more important than what time you get off, and if you get more and more competitors there that come in, technically, you should have a bigger pool of people who would stage design and help set up. So is it reasonable if you have 5 stages in a classifier and you start getting into like the 120 participants range that you might have 6 stages in a classifier with smaller squads and continual movement? I know that still makes you're still shooting more stages, so you'd probably get done later, but is that an option from your guys' experience that people could do?
I think, Tommy, and you're kind of like touching on it, I don't think the amount of people actually matters. I think the quality of the stage and the turnover time is what really matters. Yes. If I put on the ground 6 high quality, like low to medium courses of fire that are roughly, let's say they're somewhere between like 18 and 24 rounds, and you have a turnover time of 45 minutes, and you get out of there at 2:00, was that a worse match even though there was 150 people? If you can cycle all those people through and still get out at a relatively decent time, that doesn't matter. It's all about building a match. I'm thinking out loud, so I could be wrong on this, but it's building a match that has good flow and has good turnover, so that you're not just like stuck like waiting for the squad to finish. I think that's the bigger issue.
Yeah, so
heads up, goons are on customs. I'm down to lose a kit.
I think match
goons are like 20.
More important. 3 years ago, SLPSA, before COVID, SLPSA was getting 100 shooters or so, and we tried doing a 7th stage, and we actually got out of there later than with 6 stages.
Yeah.
I mean, just do the math. 3 extra shooters on a squad is an extra 15 minutes per stage, so an extra 40 minutes a match. Versus if you shoot another stage, you're an hour.
Right.
I mean, so now maybe if you get 120 shooters, it might make sense to do another stage. But where we're at right now, I don't see a point in doing another full stage, and I don't see a point in turning shooters away until you're over 100.
Yeah, and even at that, I agree, Kenny. I mean, I think one of the things you always look at, like our turnover time yesterday was anywhere, just looking at the time. So I didn't have the master pad, and the master pad will actually tell you all this information, but you can use your videos and you say, okay, well, this video was taken at this time, this one at 1+2. This is how long it take. We were averaging about 45 minutes to 50 minutes turnover with one stage that had a longer one, which was about an hour. That's not bad. I mean, you start the match at 9 o'clock. You're out of there we were out of there about 2:30. Come summertime, we'll be starting at 8 o'clock, which means that we'll still be getting out at a relatively decent time. I think you're going to experience more and more people wanting to shoot. And you're just seeing that happen. I mean, last year there was kind of ammo shortage, so people couldn't get it. In addition, you had all the COVID restrictions that were going on that were starting to taper themselves down. Now you have a whole lot of people that are wanting to get into the shooting sports, and they're all going to come into this thing. And I think the worst thing you could do would be to set a cap on it and say, well, this is all we're going to allow. If you haven't taken the time to explore other opportunities that still allows them to shoot the matches, such as creating better stage design, working with some of your flow and things like that, I think that's the first thing I'd want to work on before I started capping out available shooters.
Yeah. Like I said before, pre-COVID, Slipsa tried 7 stages. That didn't work. They tried doing a Saturday, Sunday. Surprisingly, that didn't work because Sunday everybody wants to go to church, so everybody still showed up on Saturday.
Yeah, Utah is that culture. I mean, yeah. I know if you go to other states and things like that, they don't have that strong Sunday culture, but Utah does have that culture.
Yep.
And so it's like I was telling Andrea. I mean, like I'm not really a Still Challenge person, but if Still Challenge was on a Saturday, I can pretty much guarantee you I would go out there and shoot. I would take advantage of that a lot more than right now, which is on a Sunday, and I just don't do it for that reason.
Yep.
There's the great advantages that we're discussing more and more of the lower round count, medium short courses. Good ones.
Yeah. I'll just show you here. You gotta have to switch over heading. Let's see, from Alex Went. Have you seen a change in the amount of people coming to Slipsa now that UDPL is basically closed? So in Utah, we had a big club. This was UDPL, Utah Defensive Pistol League, and they were a big club. Actually, Steve Koski kind of was one of the founding members of it back in, I don't know, like the 1900s or something like that.
1996, yeah, somewhere in there.
Somewhere in that area. And they were really dominant for a long time, and then they kind of just slowly just started losing support.
A lot of the people who are the main drivers of the club got up in the age.
And, retired, moved on.
Not a lot of support, career stuff, career changes.
Yeah,
and so that
happens.
That happens, and the other part is there is a geographical thing with the club, where the place where their farm, which was Slipsa is 10 miles, 12 miles farther away from my house than UDPL is, and I can get to Slipsa faster than UDPL, and UDPL also has a very bad rocky kind of road that you have to get to, and so
that road, we have a joke about that road, which it's exactly like DQs. There are people who have popped a tire, and there are people that will pop a tire.
Yeah,
because it's that bad.
Well, the other part is too, it's like the infrastructure around that whole place. It's, if I get done from a match and I'm like, hey, let's go get something to eat, it's a feasible thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's literally like another 30 minutes to civilization out there. And so it's just I'm not saying it's a bad range. It is just
it's a fantastic range.
Nice, fantastic big range, and it's got a lot
access is rough.
The access is rough, and the stuff around it is rough, and so I think that really kind of hinders people. Up at Slipsa, for most people that live in the area, they hit the 201, the 215, the 15, and they are there in a hop, skip, and a jump. Going 75, 80 miles an hour, and there can be a participation problem in the other places because of how far it is. And so unless you're hardcore, I want to shoot this. And the other part is the kind of the sports that they chose. I think if they had chosen USPSA or stayed with IDPA, there'd be a much more participation and activism for keeping the club going than some of the other sports that were chosen. So I think there's a lot of reasons for that.
Yeah, I was talking to Jared, and he actually brought up that he thought he was seeing some of the Timmies that came out of UDPL now shooting the Slipsa match, and that wouldn't surprise me because I mean UDPL it's a great match, and I kind of don't think most people in the Salt Lake area truly understand how good we have it. I mean, it's gotten so crazy. It's like if I have to drive more than 10 minutes to go shoot a match, I'm like, it's going to take all day.
Yeah, you poor thing. I got to drive like an hour, Dad, just to go shoot a match. The other part is too.
Oh, Tommy, I get it. I totally get it. I know what you're saying. It's this weird stupidity that I think about all the time. I'm like, have I become that like?
Yeah, Robert's dead set. It's like I got to drive so far. I'm going to create an indoor league.
I know.
It's got to be closer.
That's the thing. Even my indoor league. I mean, that's like 10 minutes away from me, so I'll do it.
That's like 45 minutes from me now.
I'm not the one who moved away.
The kind of the crazy thing or the interesting thing to think about if there's more Timmies there, I think one of the things that kind of was a bright spot at at UDPL was that there was guys who were good, who went to UDPL, who would not step foot at Slipsa because there was some shit and it was going to get pushed in. So there was probably a group of people who did not.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense because you said there are guys who are good at UDPL, and then I'm like, no, those are the ones that shot USPSA at Slipsa.
There were people who were good at certain aspects who would not move into Slipsa. And when I started shooting Slipsa in 2014, 2015, it was just like, okay, very new to the sport. This is very hard. This is a different adjustment to make into shooting USPSA.
Right.
And but like the quality of skill that was in that club, even at that time, was eye-opening. And then you literally go into the level of the skill now, and the people who have come and gone. Like we've had like, people who have come in here like Jeremiah and Brandon, and they've moved away. And it's just like those guys were like some really good people, and people who were there and are not often, like Brett Thomas. It's just like they are really good people. And then like the regulars that are still here are very, very good. And it's not even to say like our B-class shooters are very good B-class shooters, and our A-class shooters are very good A-class shooters. Like there is pick a division. And by when I say pick a division, I mean limited, open, and carry optics, and you can find a heap of competition.
Well, I think so. God, where did I hear it? Somebody was saying. I mean, one of the challenges that UDPL actually had was that it was kind of a beginner's club, and it was really good at being a beginner's club because they were very inviting towards that. And I remember there was a time when we were trying to actually push them into be more like major match competitive, and there was big pushback on that, saying that if you do this, it makes it so the new people can never they're just going to stop coming.
Yeah, correct.
And we got that massive pushback on that. But the flip side of that is if it's always a new shooters club, then it can never grow. Correct. Because the new shooters will eventually get good and go find deeper waters. And if they're leaving, then nobody is kind of filling in the blank or filling in the void of what that should be. And I want UDPL to be so thriving because it's such a great range. If they could figure out the road situation, you could put some massively great matches on out there.
You just need to put a good product on the ground and that people can actually shoot it. And so it's like the other thing is have it just to be a little bit different than I think USPSA, and you could probably do something that's concealed carry oriented.
Tommy, it has to be USPSA. It has to be.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, if it was USPSA, people would go. Like, USPSA, we're all such addicts to USPSA that, Jesus, I drive 2 hours to go shoot in Logan just to shoot USPSA.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm aware of the situation, but like here's the other places. Like you got In-N-Out, right? You got In-N-Out and you got Five Guys, and they're producing USPSA up in here.
Sorry, Tommy.
Those are two terrible restaurants.
Wait,
In-N-Out's terrible.
Tommy,
Get off.
Five Guys is good. In-N-Out is horrendous.
Oh my gosh,
Tommy.
Yes.
To use your example, is not In-N-Out and Five Guys. It's Five Guys compared to Joe's Burger Shack, because at least with In-N-Out and Five Guys, you have a nationally recognized product.
Correct.
With Joe's Burger Shack, Joe makes some really kick-ass burgers, and I mean, I like the way they cook their fries, but it's Joe's, and eventually Joe's going to get old, and Joe's going to get tired, and who's going to take over Joe's? That's the problem. Is if you don't have something that's nationally recognized, whether it's IDPA, USSL is dead. It doesn't work. I know that. Okay, and I don't say that with any malice, but if it's not IDPA or USPSA, realistically, it has to be USPSA, because Kenny hits the nail on the head. The people that actually are willing to go out and do stuff, that's USPSA people. We'll travel ridiculous amounts to shoot matches, local matches.
I'm not arguing with that. I'm arguing with the building of a base of something that can actually be done by 2 or 3 people to put on the ground.
But that, Tommy, is a great point, because how do you I know up in Idaho, they build all of their stages the day of. Correct. So you show up, you're signed in, okay, go build the stage, and as soon as it's done, we'll shoot the match. And they still get out at really good times. And so could you do that at the UDP or the UDPL range? Possibly. Well, I don't know if USPSA shooters would be willing to do that, even if it only took like 30, 45 minutes, because you get a handful of guys on a stage. We'll throw a stage together so fast. It's easy.
But the amount of USPSA experience very seldomly comes south of the point of the mountain.
Because there's no reason to come south of the mountain.
Right.
It's a build it, they'll come kind of thing. Yeah.
I mean, I think the Armory is like a perfect opportunity. Look at the Armory, like, it was doing okay, but realistically, Robert, like once you switch to USPSA rules,
100%
different. The match sells out in 24 hours now.
Well, and that's the thing with the mindset that happens with certain clubs and newer clubs that do not want to cater to more experienced. Or here's how would I say this? When you are in an effort to protect people's feelings, you only do so at the sacrifice of the quality of the match and safety.
Yep.
And so, and then that becomes a perpetual problem, because then you develop a bunch of people who literally will break the rules or do something and be like, well, this guy didn't get called on that, so why am I getting called on that? It's because you missed the target, Kenny. You got to take your mics. And then
I was gonna say, Tommy, it feels like this was a personal thing for you.
Kenny takes most of his mics like a man. He just doesn't want to talk at anybody or look at anybody while he's doing it.
I take them all like a man. They said, "You want to come see this target?" And I said, "Score what you see." And I walked away.
Score what you see.
I'm fucking pissed at myself, but I will let you give me the mic. I'll take it.
Is it a mic? The most you should ever do is just like, if you think it could be something, you could put an overlay on it, and then you walk away.
100%. That's the best way to do it. It is always for you to sit over there and argue for a Charlie Mike to turn into a 2 Charlies, because you called your perfect Charlies.
Remember,
bull crap.
You can't argue.
A long time ago, it makes you look like a real jackass. Just walk away, let him score it.
The person who says I want to get out of here at 2 and the person who wants a target pulled are not the same person. Remember,
sometimes they are. They're just hypocrites. What they'll do is they'll be like, I want you to pull the target, and then they'll score it, and they're like, hey guys, my kid needs me to take him home, so deuces.
I never asked for that. Never.
The match is over and we got to tear down now? Yeah, I actually just had a family emergency. I can't help tear down.
I can't help. Everyone's got to go.
And we're all like, Tommy, we know you don't got a shotgun, so you can't be a 3-gunner. Get your ass back here.
Yeah, well, quick. Sorry, when I leave an hour and a half with somebody, I'm sorry. I only did it with 77 people in the squad and even asked everybody, and everyone was fine. Oh, thanks for coming, Tom. Bullshit. Sorry I made fun of your mic. Sorry you guys had to get butthurt about it. Anyway, next question.
You should make fun of my mics because all three of them, the farthest one was about 3.5 yards.
I mean, that close. It is so hard to do that, and yet we've all done it. We've all done it a lot.
That's we're splitting. We're split now.
You go back, you look at your videos, you're like, I only see like one. I mean, that puff is in the right same spot. I have no idea how I missed that.
Well, it's always good too when you talk to the new shooters. Is like, listen, no matter how close the target is, pick a very specific aiming spot on the target and drive the gun there. And then it's like Alpha, Mike, Charlie, Mike, and you're just like that.
Just like that.
Every single time. Next question. Holosun is prototyping a pistol-specific optics for the Glock stuff, even Walther PDP, for use without a plate. Do you think this will be fruitful or just a gimmick?
So they have their STS line, and so what it is, it's literally every optic company, HK, Smith & Wesson, Glock, they all have like what's underneath the plate. And so what this optic is, it's going to lay on that plate and mount directly onto that plate and fit inside that dovetail. So you have no plates, you get a direct thread mounting, and these optics do not have a battery. They have a capacitor in it, but they do not have an actual battery that is removable. And so you're able, without a battery, to get the optic much lower. And so what these do is this capacitor that's in them will take off the solar panel off the top and go into the capacitor, and that capacitor will last for 20,000 hours, and it charges faster than it discharges to emit the dot. So this is really good technology. I've looked through one. The problem is with these, for defensive use, I don't really see them, because if you have a flashlight on the gun, they are not bright enough, and there's no buttons on the side. They are not bright enough to correspond with super bright days. So if you're shooting into something, you're going to have a hard time. They do, however, have a switch that you can put on that will override and flood, and the capacitor sending juice out to make the dot brighter, and that lasts for about 30 minutes. But it comes at the cost of really draining that battery that's in there. So that's kind of the thing that you're left with. So for like a competitive shooter, you could do it, but I'm not sure. In competition, battery life is probably one of the things that matters the least, especially with the availability and cheapness of CR2032s. I mean, you can literally go to Costco and get 12 of them for $8.99 and just slide them in your bag, and you're good for life no matter what you're running. The other part is too is like they're kind of small windows with 2 MOA dots. Shoot whatever dot size you like or whatever window size you like. I think it's a very good option for maybe concealed carry without a light on them. But you wouldn't be like, well, I'm going to get in a fight soon, so I'm going to hit the button to just charge it. And why would you have something like that if you're going to shoot competitively? Because some days competitively, like you pull out that dot and you're like, oh, nope, more. That's exactly what I want on that. And so I don't, because even if you have it and you hit the extra, that's all she's got. Like, it's not like there's a button that's like super extra. That's what you have on them. So I like the idea of mounting directly to them. If they come out with a model that has a 2032 or a 2016 or something like that, you could plug into them. That might be something to consider. But there's a Holosun has a bunch of other great footprints, and here's the deal: is like the manufacturer that has that plain base that top can go on, they sell plates for other optics. So put the plate on, and then put a different optic on there till that technology's kind of fleshed out a little bit better.
All right, let's see. From Zach Harbing, how often do you clean your gear? Guns, check mags, belt, mag, pouch, screws? I think you're going to see two polaric differences here.
When I was actually being competitive, I cleaned my gun every one match, one practice session. I'd clean it, and my holster maybe once a year, and then mag pouches I brush them out occasionally. But Yeah, my guns, 1 match, 1 practice. My magazines, every time they get used.
I would, if I went out there and shot a match and I had the time on the next Saturday, I would clean it. And if made it to the second match without doing it, then I'd probably clean it that time. As far as my gear and pouches, it's like gear pouches and stuff like that. You like undo them the first time you get them. You put this little thing called Blue Lock Tuck 242 on it, and the stuff that's not the tension adjustable stuff, you kind of get that all kind of squared away, and so you don't really have to kind of worry about that stuff. And of course, the one thing that we have to check more now is the optics, and so it's like you get yourself a wheel or fat wrench or something else like that. Every once in a while you're going through cleaning on it, you have it set to the right pound, inch pound. You twist them, you're like, that's still tight. Witnesses are still lined up. Battery's still good. We're moving on there.
Yeah,
Here it comes. What's cleaning, Robert?
It's what I do when I break stuff. I clean just enough to fix whatever is broken, and then I'm good. I mean, why would you need to do anything else? It's a gun. It should work. I don't even retorque the crap. You know what I do? I take a little marker pen and I like mark where the screw is, and if it moves, then I fix it and I replace it. Why would you clean a working gun? If it works, why would you ever mess with it?
Well, because
that's a serious question. Why would you F with a gun that's working?
Because at some point it doesn't work. That's the
then
whole
you
thing.
Clean it.
Everything starts
at that point
apart.
You clean it.
So I disagree here, Robert. And we're gonna go we're gonna talk about rifles now, because there's this thing in the rifle world of when to clean your rifle barrel.
See that feed ramp? Clean.
A known clean a clean barrel is a known barrel. You know what it's gonna do when it's clean.
Okay.
What's a barrel gonna do at 500 rounds? Well, what point in life is it get at? Because it'll change throughout the point of life. Same as your gun. Your CZ might be perfect for 2,000 rounds when it's new. What about 2,000 rounds halfway through its life? Then will it start malfunctioning? Versus a clean gun is a known gun. You know it'll be good.
Well, the other part is too is like what the ammo has to interact with the barrel, and like the thing that how does that ammo or that different ammo interact with a dirtier barrel? Then you know what it can do when it sits there and it's clean. Because the clean's a known factor. You get there. The other part
I feel like this is an intervention.
It is an intervention.
Yeah, Robert. Start cleaning. You know what? I'm just going to say, who breaks the guns the most?
Somebody has to test out parts.
Who cleans their gun the least? Maybe these two are correlated.
That has nothing to do with it. And I'm going to keep going with that because I'm sure it doesn't.
Well, there's parts of the guns, like when you break it open, you clean, you actually get to see where the wear parts of the guns are to see what's actually happening. Machines work very good with lubrication. It is like good to have the guns lubricated. And
all that carbon is lubrication. It just smooths everything out.
You'll start seeing things. It's very funny. It's like you don't realize how important lubrication is until like you start getting some guns back from people who are like, hey, my gun doesn't work. Had a friend brought back a Beretta. It's like, it's not cycling right. I take it over, the thing's bone dry. I literally put, here's some freaking Lucas, put it on there, cycle it. He sends me a video of, oh man, it's kicking brass right out.
Tommy, that's why I use that what is it stuff, the gun butter stuff that Zach has. I mean, it goes on, it stays on for at least a season or two.
Yeah, well, the other part about having the oil and the grease is like eventually it collects things that it shouldn't collect. It's like...
And you put more on and it wipes it off.
And then the other part, too, it's like you literally will start... Certain guns will do certain things when they don't have lubrication. Like, some of them won't lock the slide back when they do not have the proper amount of lubrication to do so. There's a lot of things that happen. There's parts of the gun that are manufactured in the gun to make the gun even better, and it's just like, well, I just don't want to do it. So it's like...
In all seriousness, I will generally clean. I don't know how in depth you go, Kenny, but every year, typically twice a year, the gun will get what I think is clean, and it means that I take the entire gun apart, and in the process of that, I'll wipe it all out, and I'll wipe all the frame out and stuff like that, and put what is it, that stuff used, like it's brake clean. It's the non-ammonia version of it. And I'll do that, and then I'll put it all back together. But I will immediately, like, I'll do that, and then I'll immediately take the thing back out to the range and shoot 100, 200 rounds through it, just to kind of get it. I hate to say dirty again, but 100, 200 rounds. I know if whatever I did in terms of like replacing parts, I'll know if I did something wrong.
So I think that's a fair argument, right? Like a 2011, 1911, like they're stupid. They're idiot proof. Like I take the whole thing down into my cleanup, but they're easy. There's 40 parts in the whole thing.
Easy.
Same as Glock. Now when I was shooting a Beretta, I didn't take it completely down because it was a lot harder. So I understand what you're saying with CZ. You know, it's
the Beretta. You sit there and the Beretta becomes like, hey, after Utah State, I would take down my Beretta, knock the pins out, and like do the hard thing, which is the slide. Pull out the safety decocker, pull out the firing pin, and you know what you find most often on a Beretta 92? The firing pin is broken. Because they break. They are weird geometries, they break. But you don't know that if you just go, whatever. I very much turn my nose up at the argument of not cleaning guns because the not cleaning guns thing used to be like a brand loyalty. I don't have to clean my Glock. I don't have to clean my SIG. I don't have to clean my HK. I've never had to clean this. They make these guns so well that you don't have to clean them. And then it was just like, oh, okay, so you want to risk your match or your life on so that you can make Glocks, so you can be marketing for Glock. It's like, good for you. I'll put the gun oil on it. Like I'll just clean it, and so that way, like, if it goes shitty, I at least have a variable I can take out of the situation. Was like, well, was the gun clean and lubricated? And I go, I did that. I cleaned and lubricated. Next problem on the list that it could be.
Yeah,
that's what I was getting at. That you know how a clean gun acts. It's a known part of it.
And I swear on my life, Kenny, that the gun runs better when it's a little bit dirty. I swear it does.
So I'm not saying you're wrong, but that's what I'm getting at what point of its life, because the guns change as they wear in, they get different, you know.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I can tell when the gun is like, it's always the trigger. I can always tell when that trigger's like, okay, it's been like 2 years. You should probably clean this thing. Kind of, it just gets a little bit more sluggish, and so it's like, okay, well, let's tear this thing apart. Or generally, what I do is, what I do a lot is I just take the slide off of it, and then I spray brake clean in it, and I shake it out a little bit, and then I put it back together.
I am never.
I'm not saying I'm right.
I'm not ready
I'm saying it's a solution.
Like, I'm not ready to dismiss the people who make the manufacture the guns. It's like the one thing is like there's a lot of things that are cool. Most things are wear parts, and like lubrication, that is like one of like the dispensable parts that goes out like constantly. Right. And if you're in other occupations or something like that have to deal with machinery and lubrication, it's just like you're just like, no, you want shit lubricated all the time. You want it running, you want it clean, you want to keep that stuff moving, because you know that's what makes the thing work, especially when you have something that's tight, and it's just like the shit doesn't work unless it can move. It's a machine.
Right. I'm the person that asked the question. Zach, clean your gun every week. You're shooting an Infinity open gun every week.
Well, it's like
wait a minute. Zach, you're shooting an Infinity. Stop showing up to our matches. Take your anti-2A company crap and support the Second Amendment, and then
I'm perfectly fine if people with Infinity show up the match. Just download the magazine to 10, for God's sake.
This has got a good point.
Just I know a friend that owns an Infinity that's pretty old. Is he still okay?
He's all right. He's grandfathered in.
Good.
He's grandfathered in.
As long as he doesn't bring it. Or actually, he can bring it, but what we'll need to do is have Troy take a Dremel and just like kind of take that Infinity part right off there.
Take the side part off there.
Not happening.
All right, here's another question. Why do you shoot USPSA or whatever sanctioned match? Not the boring, it's fun. I get that it's fun. We don't spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and put in the time and effort to do just for fun. So why did you decide to start shooting? I actually disagree with that entirely.
Because it's cool and it's fun.
Because it's fun.
What do you? It was like.
I'm not getting a fucking Mary King Peak Cadillac. What do you think? I do it because it's fun.
It's fun. You're sitting there with like-minded people, and then like you're doing cool things. Like I like shooting handguns. Like shooting rifles.
I think he's asking why you chose USPSA over other pistol sports.
Because it's hard. It's hard. There's good
because it was 10 minutes from
there.
My house.
Like,
and I got kicked out of UDPL for things I said.
It's like hard. Like
it's like also true.
I'm not a fan. Like I do not like USPSA to like USPSA. I'm not a member because I'm just like, man, all I want to dream about is that USPSA. I like it because it's the hardest handgun sport to shoot. It's
somebody hasn't shot Bianchi yet.
Someone hasn't shot the real hardest thing where you put the gun up against the door and shoot at the target. Like that's hard too. But like this is like cool hard. And there's
actually it.
This is like cool hard. And so it's like that's pretty sweet. I mean, I would wish USPSA would have like a legitimate like small concealed carry division. I think that would be kind of fun, but I don't want any more divisions. But it is very challenging. There's cool people there, and it's like it is not afraid to tell you you suck. So if you are okay with finding out how good you actually aren't, it is a fantastic sport to do that to you. And if you go to your club and you're like, I'm actually pretty good, like there are matches where they'll show you different.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I shoot USPSA because it's the most competitive action shooting.
Why do you shoot?
Because it's the most competitive. Nobody knows.
Just generally, speaking, why do you shoot?
Oh, I enjoy shooting. I'll shoot anything.
Because it's fun, right?
Yeah.
It is. At the end of the day,
but the reason I chose USPSA
fun.
is the competition. I mean, in case anybody didn't find this out yesterday, I still am competitive, and I still care when I suck.
Oh, I know you're competitive. That's why I was like riding you for the last 2 weeks.
That's why you get after him about it. Then he shows up and is like, I'm still here.
Dad's home, kids. You know what? I still think USPSA is fun. Yeah, it's the most competitive, and I like it for that. But I think, I mean, given the opportunity to shoot any other game out there, no, USPSA it is the metric. USPSA IPSC, right? It's the metric for what like it means to be like a high end practical shooter.
That's the one thing about like handguns are the hardest thing to shoot. Handguns are the hardest thing to shoot. Handgun ammunition is the cheapest ammunition to shoot.
Well, it's like you have all these new things that come along, and like full stop. I am not saying anything negative about any of them. IDPA, PCSL, USSL. I don't like. There's nothing negative because they're promoting the Second Amendment, and I'm a big fan of that. But all of those exist because they're almost as good as USPSA. Hey, we're the same as USPSA, just a little bit different. Hey, we're the same as USPSA, but we use concealed carry guns. Hey, we're the same as USPSA, but we don't think that a Shadow 2 should actually be a production gun. Everything is always, we're almost just as good as USPSA.
Well,
like even the guys that are holding stupid outlaw matches at their indoor ranges and stuff like that, it's not as good. And they're like, well, why don't we get attendance at USPSA matches? Why don't you actually try and run a USPSA match for once?
Well,
USPSA is still the biggest, the best, and what everything ultimately comes down to, because we have a rule book that works and we have a classification system that will tell you who you are amongst all the other shooters in the world. That's pretty awesome.
No, that is awesome. But the one thing that's the benefit of having all those other clubs is eventually somebody might stumble into something that's more competitive. That's what you need.
Of course.
Like you always need people to try. You always need the stuff. And the other part is too, it's like, thank God there's other games out there like that.
Because then you see how bad other things actually are.
The thing that you get to see that's bad is like you can go into some of those other competitions or some other discipline and see how bad you are. And that's the other part too. It's like you can go in the Steel Challenge and be like, okay, my stand and deliver skills on things that need to be shot with one shot off the bat, maybe I should be able to do that, and of course it's under the umbrella of USPSA. But there's other things that those different skills can teach you.
Right. I mean, USPSA doesn't get a free pass by any just saying like we're the best, blah blah blah. You say that stuff and eventually you're going to be passed. What Max is doing with PCSL is really something amazing. He's putting some really good things. I don't know how well it's going to survive past the regional effect. Like there's a lot of these things that'll start and they'll be really cool on a small regional level, but as soon as they get to a national level and you actually have to have rules that can transcend whatever happens out in St. George, Utah, it starts to get more complicated. But Max is a super smart guy, and I think he's got a lot of potential with his 2-gun. That is amazing, and it makes like basically 2-gun shooting. It kind of makes that 3-gun interesting again, because people are like, why do I want to shoot a shotgun? But what Max is doing is just awesome, and I'm so excited to see Slipsa actually picking up PCSL. because people love it.
Well, the one thing that you find that's kind of interesting, no matter what thing you shoot, is like all the greats shoot almost anything they possibly can. It's like we'll look at Rob Latham's bio and see how many non-USPSA titles he has.
Well, that's the thing though, Tommy, because
Niels Jonasson, like the guy has multi-gun championships under his belt. I mean, there are serious advantages. Like USPSA is the best thing going out there for competitive shooting, but like all those other things are good for you for competitive shooting.
They are, but you'll notice that they're always going down. They go from USPSA to IDPA, USPSA to something else, because you never see it going the opposite way.
Correct.
It just doesn't happen.
USPSA
is the premier to everything.
Yeah.
USPSA IPSC. I say USPSA because we're in America, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing, but it's not like any racing's good racing. Like you see the old world champion of F1, Max Verstappen. He's also the current iRacing world champion.
Yeah.
So, and he doesn't even race F1 cars in iRacing. He's racing GT cars and Formula 3 cars, and so like any like trigger time, and it can make you better. And so let's not ever wish for a world that is USPSA only.
Oh yeah.
Last question from Mr. Bryson Cole: should you train with other people's guns?
If they're rich and they have 7 million open guns, absolutely.
Thank you, Clay.
Kenny was just like, I'm ready for an open, and then he's like looking at his precision rifles. He goes, I have no money to get an open gun. I can't do this.
Vanessa is the nicest person in the world. You want to spend how much on a scope?
Yeah. I think that depends on what you're wanting to do. Are you practicing with their gun to shoot their gun in competition, or are you just practicing with their gun and still shooting your gun in competition?
I think it's very like if I was like, listen, I'm thinking about getting a Shadow 2. I am going to borrow one of Robert's Shadow 2s. This is a very hypothetical situation that will never happen. I want to warn you guys. I will put a disclaimer. This is never going to happen.
I've got one ready for you.
I
swapped the mag release over and everything.
You see these skinny little wrists? I can't even hold it. So you go out there and you start shooting it.
Yeah, you're a trucker now. Your butt's going to get bigger than your wrists.
I've lost weight this week, sir. I'll have you know. I've been keeping
As a trucker, you will put it back on.
As a trucker, my hand strength will get better around.
He's just going to have bad veins soon. That's it.
Bad veins. But the funny thing is too, it's like Kenny let me borrow his Glock 34. When I was like, I think I'm going to swap over to a Glock 34, and I sat there and I dry fired with it for a couple weeks. And the great thing about borrowing that gun and practicing with it was I got to understand what I wanted in my 34, which was less aggressive grip texture. He turned me on to the Seymour because I sat there and I looked through that thing and I was just like, this is a nice window. This is a good dot.
Yeah.
I like the Robert turned me on to a Delta Point, and so it was like, got a slide that would fit a Delta Point, didn't have one that would fit a Seymour, so I went with the Delta Point option. But you get to sit there and you get to go through, and then you get to mess around with like, what are your actual preferences in other competitive areas, like driving's one. There are people who like cars that oversteer more, which the tail comes around and the nose points harder. And there's people who feel much more faster and safer and a car that has a slight more setup to an understeer. But they could be the same car. So the setup on what you're actually looking for can be a big deal, and borrowing a gun can be like the first step of understanding what you like and what you don't want.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's hard to answer the question without knowing like the context of it.
Yep.
I think just practicing with somebody's gun just to practice with their gun is not a good idea. But if you're practicing with their gun to figure out if it's something you want or to change divisions, something like that, that's fine. But
yeah, we like literally Kenny in a Beretta 92. That was borrowing and competing with someone else's gun because he did not have that gun, and so it.
I mean, Kenny's been borrowing his dad's primers since he was age 13.
Yeah, it's still working.
You can see how well
it's still working out well. So.
Yeah, Kenny, I think you're right. I agree with you. I mean, what you're saying makes sense to me. I mean, if you want to go shoot somebody's gun just to see what it's like, see what a Beretta is like, see what a 1911 is like, sure, I get that. But if you're going to compete with it, that makes sense. But just to do it, like maybe the question's coming from the idea of should you be familiar with the manual of arms of like other firearms. Should you know how a Glock works or a Smith & Wesson or something like that? Maybe that's where it's coming from. Maybe that's smart. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know, like, those people that ask if you should shoot a different division to make you better in X division. I don't know if it's like that kind of question, because I don't think so. I think just practice whatever division you want to be good at. I don't know if it's something like that or.
I mean, if there's literally something that you're doing on one firearm that you practice something to try it out, but I don't know if like I'm gonna grab this gun because I need to work on X skill and this gun will force me to work on that skill. I mean, that would be very, very specific.
Yeah.
I know that Andrea doesn't want me to train on any of Clay's guns because then I'd want to buy one, and that would be really expensive.
The other day I told you we should swap rigs.
I know. Well, your dad's got a left-handed open rig.
Mm-hmm. I had his left-handed open gun yesterday. You could have shot it.
Oh, you suck. No, damn it. No, I that's a lot of money. I can't afford that. I have horses now.
You have like 10 CZ, sell a couple, you could afford an open gun.
Oh, dude, I could sell the magazines and afford an open gun.
And then you gotta afford
so
that
you gotta
ammo.
So you gotta afford 2011 magazines.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, right now the 2011 gun that really interests me would be a DWX. So if I was going to shoot limited optics, that'd be the one that I actually really am interested in, because a lot of the parts swap over, but it's got a great trigger that you get out of a 1911, 2011, and I can run a right-handed mag release.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty cool.
They still look cool.
No,
I think they do. Yeah. Yeah, Jason Kais has one, and I'd love to get my hands on that.
And did they come out with their optics ready model yet, or are they just sending it off to have people cut them like a primary?
I think people are cutting them right now.
Yeah, Steiner cut his.
Yeah. Did he cut his, or did he send it off?
I mean, Gianni cut it for him, but.
Oh, okay. So Gianni can do all that. I was wondering if he had that capability. That's actually good to know.
Yeah, it's interesting what people will what they'll jump into, because the one thing where there is innovation, for some reason, is the 2011 market.
But you pick one up and they feel so damn good in the hand.
I hate the way they feel.
Oh, they just feel great.
Jared pointed out that squad in front of us yesterday, bunch of new shooters.
Do you see all the tech on those things?
Staccatos.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
It is amazing that brand new shooters are coming out with those guns.
Yeah, look at our new shooter matches, Kenny. Isn't that the craziest thing? These people have some cases $1,500 just in kit, and you're like, dude.
Well, it's funny to think back.
I've been doing this for 14 years, and I still don't have a firearm that costs over $1,500.
I don't have one that doesn't cost that much.
It's funny if you think when we first did the new shooter match, what people are showing up with versus what they're showing up with now.
Dude,
I mean, it's only a couple years, right? But it's.
No, it's a really good point, because they're coming up with little subcompact shields and just
leather holsters,
and crap. No,
magazines out of their pockets, stuff like that. It was just whatever they had at home. Now they're showing up with, heck, what was it? The last month, the guy showed up with a Dominant Defense belt.
Yeah, the DAA racer things.
You're just like, holy crap, man! I mean, that's a full blown race rig.
And you're like, who borrowed that? Oh, I just bought it.
Well, the kind of the interesting, just looking at in the marketing aspect of it, is you're seeing this is what's happening with the staccatos and stuff like that. You are seeing what was considered the race equipment being massaged homosexually into the defensive use stuff.
That's PCC.
Like, you talk to people and it's just like, well, what's a good gun? It's like, well, I think I want to get a Shadow 2. Or when you see Beretta and they're like, I'll get the 92X Performance, that would be a good gun for me to get for defensive use. And it's like, well, if you want the best thing, then you get the staccato. And you get the staccato and you move it in there, because it's just, that's the line of best for defensive use and best for competition means what's best for defensive use? Watching guys split the trigger really fast. How do I split the trigger really fast? I get this gun, and it turns out to be the same gun. And there's
Tommy, could that also be like, you guys watch that Formula One car show racing thing, and I just crapped all over that. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean with any disrespect. I just messed up the words. But like those guys, like Dave Blanton was saying, like that is like just the most advanced technology there is in all of automotive.
It is so advanced
But
that you
everything
drive them
that they
differently
do,
than
yeah,
other
but everything they
automobiles.
do there, it has a way of trickling down so that the cars that we're driving as just normal people, they benefit from that technology. And so it's the proverbial rising tide raises all ships. They've pushed the envelope so hard that what we at one point thought was a good beginner car, you know, my 1984 Bronco 2 or something like that, is now just like complete crap tier stuff. And these staccatos are like, yeah, this.
He's had
if we're seeing that kind of come through, I don't know.
Sorry, you froze out there for a minute for the last 5 seconds of your rant. Is it any good or better? Is that the last bit of that? Is it good? He's frozen again. Well,
yeah.
That's you, Robert. You keep freezing. You keep having a stroke.
I know. I'm so sorry. But I know enough just to sit there.
Yeah.
Because like the audio on the podcast will be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So is this a good thing? Well, it depends on. Once again, it depends on the use case. It's just like everyone was super happy when guns got a lot lighter. We were all happy for a good 15 years, and then we're just like, no, I want to carry a aluminum frame or steel frame gun again, and so it.
I think for USPSA, I think it's great to see new shooters showing up with full blown rigs.
They're invested in it. They are invested.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm a competitor.
And when they quit in 2 months, we'll pick them up at a good price.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they can come in. Well, the other part is too is like, and then the soul crushing reality of it is that you're not as competitive just because you sat there and you bought that thing. Like everyone will have to learn about it.
That's okay. That's okay because I mean they've invested the money. Maybe they will stick around a little bit longer. Maybe they'll have some fun. Maybe they have a gun. They have a gun that is really good out of the box, and so they don't ever have to play this game of. It's kind of the buy ones, cry ones. You know, they don't have to play this game of like, well, if I just get something else, it'll be that much better.
Well,
they can just focus on getting better.
Well, they would always have it, but last time I checked, I do not see as great of a quality out of the 2011 Shadow 2 Beretta Performance X crowds as I see out of the $500 Smith & Wesson and the Glock 17. Like, there are so many people who would have had like 22, like over the course of 10 years, they would have had 18 to 36 better matches if they had just shown up with a Glock 17. So, it's the high end is very high and it's very good. But I think when people sit there and remember is like that end from 400 to 800 is awesome. It is about the best time we have ever lived. Any time that you could get there and like you could spend $1,500 on a LTT Beretta, or you can spend $555 on the one that Beretta's pushing out, and it's 95% similar to it. A Glock 17, Glock 17 Gen 5s, you go zero that thing and you put it in a rust, and it's going to give you an 1.5 inch group with quality ammo. I don't know what anybody else is asking, so I'm just saying that like there are some of these things that are harder to tune. And people are, if they're going to spend $4,000 on it, you bet your ass they're going to start playing around with recoil springs and hammer springs and trying to figure out what was going to work instead of just going, Mr. Dawson, I would like the $80 sights, and I'll put those on, and okay, now I'm ready to compete.
Well, there's also.
I mean, some of these companies have done a phenomenal marketing job. I mean, at the new shooter match, so many SIGs are showing up. Like, they have done a phenomenal marketing job. Like, Staccato's done really good, making people think that their guns are actually decent, and they're not. I mean, they're doing really good at marketing them.
Yep.
And I mean, there's certainly something to be said for somebody buying a gun because they just like it.
Yeah.
I mean, like
that's fine.
It's like I mean, Alex asked Alex. He's like, well, why is it Tommy beats you with bone stock Glock or whatever? Well, because Tommy's a really good shooter, and Tommy takes a lot of time and he practices with that Glock and he's become very exceptionally good with that.
Well,
it's just an observable reality.
It's just like it needs like You got to be able to aim it. And when you pull the trigger, it goes off. And it's
Mhm.
got to not fall apart. And if you do that and you practice with it, it gets a lot better. I just the push for the stuff, like the higher end and the marketing, it's very good. But the funny thing is like the whole secret of this is there's this little company called Yannick, Canic there, and they are probably pushing out the most. They have the greatest shooter in the world currently going. They have a product that even their most highest end performance model you can find for sub $1,000, and it can take any optic, and the thing will shoot lights out, and it's got a great trigger out of the box. So, listen, spend what you want.
I think that's amazing.
Spend what you want, do what you want, but like all of us have played this game and we've learned this lesson. And there's a guy on this podcast who's literally shooting guns who are what, 80% your age, Kenny?
Yeah.
So,
Isn't that kind of put a bow on the whole thing? I mean, it's like such a great time that we are in right now, where we have a gun. A person can go out and they can buy a gun that like they don't have to work themselves around. I mean, like with Glock, you have to work yourself around it. I mean, they can buy a gun that works for them, that they love, that they have fun shooting, that makes them want to go shoot more. And we have so much interest in shooting guns and shooting matches that we're now having conversations about like, hey, how do we actually like make it so people can even get into these matches? Should we be turning people away? I mean, when we first started this thing back forever ago, was that ever really something that came up in conversation?
You're gonna have to turn away people with $4,000 guns and equipment.
Isn't that just the craziest thing? I mean, we actually we're having a really good problem right now.
Yep. No, it's
amazing.
It's a great problem to sit there and to have people who are investing that much and investing in the Second Amendment that much that they are shelling out for that. It's just hard to see. It is hard to see what people could do and what they are willing to spend when it was just like, bro, like, here it is. Like, I know you don't want to shoot a Canic. Like, you don't have to post it on Instagram. Like, you can get away with it. Like, but there's a lot of easy things that can do, and I am always surprised that the people that I respect the most in the game are not chasing a new gun every season or whatever like that. Like, they have something old, they have something that they got working for them for a long time, and if they switch to something new, they are committed to it, and that's what they're running. But there's a sense to it. It's not the this was $4,000, so I bought it.
I think I'm kind of thinking about this. Like, I think I started shooting CZs it's like 2015, 2016.
Yep.
That's weird to think that I've been shooting that same gun that long. The Shadow. I mean, I'm still using the same Shadow 2 that I bought back in 2017.
Yep.
Yeah. But I mean, some of these new shooters, they think those guns actually make any difference. You know, they see good shooters shooting, like, oh, you're not seeing 2 sight pictures every shot. It's just a really nice gun that keeps the gun level, and you just, and as people get into the sport, they'll realize that those guns don't actually matter. I mean,
yep.
There's a point of diminishing returns for sure.
Well, the one thing is like,
as long as the gun's reliable and shoots an acceptable group. But...
Yeah, the one thing I'll always say about that is like, you can be a shooter who shoots them at the same, even though the price points, like Jared Stepp can shoot a Glock just as well as he can shoot a 20 a staccato. Yep. But likes that. Some people like that flash. They like it, and you like what you like, but it doesn't mean it's the most competitive option for you. Anyway, thanks for downloading, listening, subscribing. Thanks for checking out everything that we do, which is basically this podcast, and this podcast is it. Check out Telegram. Conversation going on there, always continually rolling. And for Robert White and Kenny Terry, I'm Tom Nelson, bidding you peace, love, and soul as we depart into the open waters of the Sea of Life on a little tugboat we like to call the PARAcast.
Good night, everybody.
Toot toot.